to the Court of Federal Claims, Judge Amanda Brailsford, nominated to the District of Idaho, and Judge Cato Cruz, nominated to the District of Colorado. Congratulations to all three nominees and their families. The two district court nominees before us each have received blue slips from both of their home state senators. And I would like to thank Senators Crapo, Risch, Bennett, and Hickenlooper for working with the White House in good faith to expeditiously fill these judicial vacancies. Our colleagues are all joining us today for introductions of the nominees, but first I would normally turn to Senator Graham, ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, for opening remarks. In his absence, I'll turn it over to the good senator from the state of Louisiana, Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to welcome all our nominees and our guests today. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair.
All right, we're operating pretty efficiently here this morning. Senator?
I think we ought to be in charge all the time.
Absolutely, without objection. We'll now hear introductions for our nominees, beginning with Senator Risch.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Ranking Member. Thank you so much for having us here. It's my great honor and privilege to come here to meet with you today. And I'd like to introduce Judge Amanda Brailsford, who's here with me today to serve as the United States District Court for the District of Idaho. Judge Brailsford, congratulations to you and welcome to you and your family. If confirmed, Judge Brailsford would not only be the first woman to serve in this role in Idaho, but also one of the most qualified nominees that I've seen move on to our federal bench in Idaho. Judge Brailsford was born in Hagerman, Idaho, and received her degree summa cum laude from the University of Idaho, one of the finest law schools in the United States of America, I might add. My alma mater also. She began her career in private practice, working nearly 20 years at a law firm before starting her own civil litigation firm in Boise. Judge Brailsford was then appointed to the Idaho Court of Appeals by my good friend and successor, former Governor Butch Otter, who I might add was one of the best governors that Idaho has had. And she served since 2019 and had a hand in deciding a majority of the opinions that have been rendered by that court. As you can see, Judge Brailsford has significant qualifying experience in civil and criminal matters, and with practice respect for the Constitution and the rule of law we demand in Idaho from our federal bench. For these reasons, it's my honor to commend Judge Amanda Brailsford to you, and I look forward to supporting her nomination on the floor, which I'm confident you will move expeditiously. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Risch.
I'm going to ask, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask to be excused. I think Senator Crapo is coming, but as you know, we've got committee meetings going on all over, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I now turn to Senator Bennett to introduce Judge Cruz.
Thank you very much, Senator Padilla. Senator Kennedy, it's good to see you as well. For the opportunity to introduce Cato Cruz, President Biden's nominee for the U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado. I know that Cato's parents, Don and Napoleon, are with us today, along with his stepmother, Brooke, and his wife, April. I thank all of them for making the trip to join us this morning as I have the chance to introduce, with Senator Hickenlooper, this exceptional nominee. Judge Cruz is a son of Colorado. He was born in Pueblo, proud steel town in the high desert in the southern part of our state. Cato's family didn't have a lot as he was growing up, but his parents worked hard to put him and his sister first. By the time Cato was in middle school, he knew he wanted to be a lawyer. His dad had been a solo law practice in Pueblo, and while Cato didn't exactly know what his dad did for work, he knew he was helping people. He had the respect of his community, and he looked great in a suit. Cato attended public high school in Rye, Colorado, a rural town in the San Isabel foothills, where he was the only African-American male in his entire school. He earned a BA from the University of Northern Colorado and a JD from the University of Arizona, where he served on the law review, made the dean's list, and offered pro bono aid to survivors of domestic violence. After law school, Cato served as an attorney for the National Labor Relations Board in Denver, where he investigated and prosecuted charges of unfair labor practices. He spent the next 17 years, Mr. Chairman, in private practice, first at a big firm in Denver, where he made partner, and then at a smaller firm he founded with colleagues. In private practice, Cato focused on civil litigation and employment law, representing both sides of the legal ledger, workers and employers. His clients ranged from large companies to family businesses, nonprofits, charter schools, and vulnerable Coloradans. In one case, Cato represented a worker who had left his employer to start his own vehicle booting company. When the employer sued him for breaching a non-compete agreement, Cato defended the worker and saved his new small business from ruin. In private practice, Cato tried cases in federal and state courts, administrative agencies, serving as chief or sole counsel in jury trials, bench trials, and administrative hearings. And for the last 4.5 years, he served as a magistrate judge for the District of Colorado. In this role, he's presided over 5 jury trials and 1 bench trial. He's performed most tasks expected of a district court judge, from handling evidentiary proceedings to all matters before, during, and after trial. During his time on the bench, Judge Cruz came to understand how pro se litigants often struggle to advocate for themselves. He also saw young lawyers eager for courtroom experience, so he founded a program to connect the two, giving younger lawyers valuable time in court and pro se litigants free help to navigate certain proceedings. That's just one example of Judge Cruz's commitment to making the legal system more accessible to litigants, to future lawyers, and the community. As Colorado's first African-American magistrate judge, Cato spends as much time as he can in the community, serving on nonprofit boards, mentoring students, and using the power of his example to help young Coloradans imagine a career in law. I have a pile of letters, Mr. Chairman, in my office from former mentors and colleagues who also describe Judge Cruz as a true public servant who works hard, never loses his poise or his patience, and never forget where he came from. He's one of the most accessible judges in our state and one of the most qualified. Judge Cruz knows what it means to try a case as a litigator and preside over one as a judge. He's practiced law for the government and for firms large and small. He's tried cases from the perspective of employers and employees, for clients with resources and clients with none at all. I have no doubt he would make an excellent district court judge, and I urge the committee to send him to the floor with a strong bipartisan vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having me here today.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. We're also joined this morning by Senator Hickenlooper to introduce Judge Cruz.
I was going to leave, but now I'm going to stay.
I worry that might turn out not to be a wise decision. Thank you, Chairman Padilla and Ranking Member Graham, for inviting me to speak. Thank you, Senior Senator Bennett, for sharing your words. And I can't add too much, but I do want to provide a little bit of perspective. And I agree that his experience, that Judge Cato Cruz's experience, intellect, and integrity make him an ideal candidate for federal judiciary. He comes before this committee with well-earned support thanks to a career dedicated to the people, as Michael was recounting. In addition to his more than 20 years' experience in employment law, since 2018 he served as a magistrate judge on the very court to which he has been nominated. Michael mentioned his mentors and the stacks of letters. There's also a number of letters from his proteges and younger people that he took under his wing, provided guidance and inspiration to. He's a well-documented believer in giving back. His commitment to pro bono work is almost limitless. He founded the Federal Limited Appearance Program, a volunteer program that provides litigants with legal representation in procedural and other non-dispositive situations. Judge Cruz's experience in community service, as Michael said, has earned enthusiastic support from all corners of the state, all members of the Colorado legal community, not just former colleagues, but labor leaders, elected officials, up and down the list. Obviously, when the American Bar Association does their rankings, he is if there was a category for most qualified, which there's not, but he is well qualified, he would be most qualified were there such a ranking. In supporting his nomination, a group of attorneys who have appeared as opposing counsel in Judge Cruz's courtroom wrote that, and I quote, "Not one of us questions Magistrate Judge Cruz's intellect, integrity, respect for the rule of law, and the profession we share." They added that he has, quote unquote, embodied what all hope to see in a judicial officer: fairness and impartiality. I could not agree more. Cato has my full, wholehearted support. I encourage this committee to support his nomination with that same commitment. We look forward to the Senate acting swiftly to confirm him to this office which he is so eminently qualified. Thank you to the chair and ranking member and every member of the committee for your consideration of this truly remarkable and outstanding nominee.
Thank you, Senator Hickenlooper. As has been mentioned, we're also expecting Senator Crapo at some point this morning. Reason for not being here, we have multiple committees meeting this morning, so if and when he's able to join us, we'll acknowledge him for some opening remarks. It is now my pleasure to introduce Molly Silfen, who has been nominated to the Court of Federal Claims. Ms. Silfen is a graduate of Yale College and of Harvard Law School. She began her legal career in private practice, where she handled patent and trademark issues for both individual patent owners as well as major companies. She then spent 2 years clerking for Judge Alan D. Lurie in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the court that hears appeals from the Court of Federal Claims. In 2013, Ms. Silfen joined the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office as an associate solicitor. Since joining the office, she has argued 23 appeals before the federal courts of appeals and has served as counsel of record in 5 merits cases before the Supreme Court. Ms. Silfen has also completed 2 details since joining the USPTO. She first spent a year with the appellate staff in the Justice Department's Civil Division, and more recently, some of you may recall, she spent 2 years detailed as a counsel with Senator Leahy's Senate Judiciary Committee staff. It is good to have her back with us today. At his request, I'd like to enter into the record Senator Leahy's statement of support for Ms. Silfen's nomination. Ms. Silfen does have the experience at all levels of the federal judicial system and the technical expertise required to serve on the Court of Federal Claims. I welcome her and her family today and look forward to hearing her testimony. And now I invite all 3 nominees to please come forward. And before you sit down, I will rise as well, ask you to raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give before the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please have a seat. Let the record reflect all 3 nominees have answered the question in the affirmative. I'll now turn to Ms. Silfen for your statement.
Thank you, Chair Padilla, for those kind remarks and for chairing this hearing. I'd also like to thank Chair Durbin and Ranking Member Graham for scheduling the hearing, and thank you to the members of the committee and your staffs for your hard work. It's a pleasure to be back here, where it was wonderful to work with all of your staffs last Congress, and it's equally exciting but a bit scarier now to be on this side of the dais. I'd also like to thank President Biden for the nomination. I'm honored by his confidence in me. A heartfelt thank you to Senator Leahy for his support. He also gave me the incredible opportunity to work on this committee, and I have the deepest respect for the bipartisan work that you do and what you can accomplish working together. In that vein, I'd also like to thank Senator Tillis for his support and his staff for being terrific partners when we worked together on the IP subcommittee. I'd like to thank all of my family and friends, those who are here today and those who cannot be here. Thank you to my parents for their unconditional love and support. Thank you to my husband, Jonathan, who has been my strongest supporter and biggest cheerleader, and even stayed home today at the last minute to take care of a sick kiddo. And thank you to our two boys who are such kind and caring human beings and who give me hope for the future. Thank you to Judge Laurie, who was kind enough to come today. I was honored to be his law clerk, and he was a role model in careful, reasoned decision-making. And thank you to my colleagues and friends throughout my career for modeling excellence in the practice of law. Once again, I'm thrilled to be here today, and I welcome the committee's questions.
Thank you very much. Judge Brailsford. Let's make sure your microphone is on. Sorry.
Thank you for convening this hearing and for your time and attention. I am both honored and humbled to appear before the committee. Thank you to President Biden for nominating me and for the opportunity to serve my country if confirmed. Thank you to Senator Risch for your kind introduction, and to both Senators Crapo and Risch of the great state of Idaho for recommending me for this nomination and for their support and encouragement. If confirmed, I would work diligently every day to earn the trust and confidence placed in me. It would be a great honor to succeed the Honorable Lynn Windmill, who has been a hardworking, dedicated, and steadfast public servant for his country and for the state of Idaho for more than 35 years. I would like to acknowledge the many people in my life who have supported me throughout my career and whose support has carried me here today. With me today is my family and my inspiration: my husband, Matt, my daughter, Avery, and my sons, Mitchell and Maddox. As always, I appreciate that you have my back today and every day. Additionally, I would like to acknowledge my parents. Growing up on the ranch, you taught me the value of hard work and perseverance. To my in-laws, Carrie and Carol, thank you for your love and support. I would also like to thank my friends, my outstanding support staff at the Idaho Court of Appeals, and my supportive colleagues in the practice of law and on the bench, and my trusted mentors. I greatly appreciate the committee's consideration of my nomination, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Judge Cruz.
Thank you, Chair Padilla, Chair Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and the members of this Judiciary Committee. And many thanks to President Biden for the honor of this nomination, to Senators Bennett and Hickenlooper for their warm introduction and for their support, and thank you to our District Court Nominating Committee. With me today is my high school sweetheart, who is also my wife, April. I thank her for her love, support, and sacrifices through all these years. Our two children, unfortunately, could not be here. Turns out that when your kids become young adults, they sometimes have their own life obligations that take precedent even over matters like this. Our daughter is in her junior year as an undergraduate student, and our son is attending his last days of his dance trade school. But they are both watching from their devices, and I love them dearly, and I thank them for the privilege it has been to be their father. Also with me today is my mother, Dawn, my pop, Napoleon, and my stepmother, Brooke. I thank each of them for their unwavering love and guidance. And my additional guests include my law clerk, Stephanie, who has been with me since I took the bench in 2018, and Claudia, who is a recent addition to my chambers. I want to thank all the family and friends who couldn't be here today, and extend a heartfelt thanks to my judicial colleagues from the District of Colorado. These are some of the best colleagues I've had in my career, and it's been an honor to work with and to know them. And a special thanks to my former partners, Julie Wagner and Rick Foster, and my dear friends, Chung Lei and Sam Brown, for their support. It's been the honor of my life to serve the public as a United States Magistrate Judge, and it would be an even higher honor to be confirmed as a United States District Judge. I thank this committee for this opportunity to appear and to answer your questions.
Thank you, Judge Cruz. Before beginning with the questions from the committee, we've been joined by Senator Crapo with the words of introduction of Judge Brailsford. Senator Crapo.
Well, thank you, Chairman Padilla, and I thank all of the members of the Judiciary Committee. I apologize for being late. I had 3 hearings this morning, and one of them I had to make an introductory statement at where I was the ranking member, so I apologize for being late. But I appreciate you letting me squeak in here and make my introductory comments of Amanda Brailsford. Judge Brailsford represents the best our state has to offer, and I hope you'll be able to support her nomination in this process. Judge Brailsford hails from Hagerman, Idaho, and is an Idaho native through and through. She received both her undergraduate degree and her Juris Doctorate from the University of Idaho, graduating summa cum laude from the University of Idaho for her law degree in 1993. Judge Brailsford clerked for the Honorable Thomas Nelson of the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit shortly after that. After her clerkship, she worked in private practice with Holland and Hart in Boise, first as an associate and then as a partner. As a partner, she handled matters relating to agriculture, product liability, and corporate law while also working as the hiring partner. In 2013, she became a founding partner of Anderson Banducci, PLLC, in Boise, focusing on matters related to complex corporate, environmental, and antitrust law while also managing all aspects of the firm. In November 2018, Governor Butch Otter appointed her to the Idaho Court of Appeals. She assumed office in 2019 and was reelected in May 2020. Judge Brailsford has been admitted before the Idaho State Bar, the United States District Court for the District of Idaho, the court for which he's currently nominated, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Outside of her employment, Judge Brailsford and her husband have been married for more than 20 years and have 3 children. I'm sure you're going to get a chance to introduce them, Amanda. Beyond her employment, she served on the Idaho Supreme Court Evidence Rules Advisory Committee from 2016 to 2019 and has been an active volunteer with the local swim teams in Boise. When I reviewed candidates with Senator Risch, Judge Brailsford stood out as one who would adjudicate cases according to the Constitution and the law consistent with established precedent. Throughout her career, Judge Brailsford has demonstrated adherence to the Constitution and law as written and has earned the respect of her legal peers. She's proven herself to be knowledgeable in law and procedure, an active participant in both the legal community and her local community, and an extremely qualified candidate for Idaho's next district judge. I thank you for this opportunity, and before I close, I want to say the folks in Idaho are excited. We've been working to get this position filled for years, and we have an outstanding candidate. And I want to thank the Biden administration, who worked very closely with us. This was a situation in which Republican senators and a Democrat president could come together and find an outstanding candidate for Idaho's next U.S. District Court judge.
Thank you, Senator Crapo. We'll now begin with our questions. I will ask the first question to all 3 of you, and it's a topic that I raise with all the nominees that come before this committee, and that is the importance of diversity, not just on the federal bench. Happy to talk about that all day long, but I asked the question specifically in the spirit of diversity amongst law clerks. Federal clerkships can be wonderful launch pads for a legal career and often serves as a pipeline to the top levels of our nation's legal profession, both in the public and the private sectors. But far too often, women and minority law students are overlooked for federal clerkships despite having equal qualifications as their peers. So I'd like to hear from each of you, starting with Judge Brailsford. If you could just discuss for a moment if you agree with that priority, the importance of diversity at all levels of the judiciary, and should you be fortunate enough to be confirmed, what you would do individually and personally to advance diversity in clerkships in our judicial system.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I do believe that diversity is important in the judiciary. I think it gives confidence to people that justice is for all. It's also a reminder that diligence and hard work and merit matter. And if confirmed, I would definitely look to all backgrounds and diverse backgrounds for law clerks if they met the merit criteria to be a law clerk.
Judge Cruz?
Thank you, Senator. I agree. Having a diverse bench, it's important that the bench emulates the communities that we serve in order to ensure that the the public has confidence in the fairness and impartiality of our courts. I would take your comment one step further and say internships, judicial internships are an important opportunity to offer those to diverse law students, which is something that I do in my chambers. I have hired diverse clerks, and it is important to maintain that diversity at all levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Senator. And I couldn't agree more with Judge Brailsford and Judge Cruz. I would also look for diverse set of candidates for law clerks. I think, and I guess I'd add that I would look for diversity in all forms. So I would certainly be looking for sort of racial, gender diversity, socioeconomic background, and also, I mean, other sort of educational background. When I clerked for Judge Laurie, he would always look to find clerks with different technical backgrounds, just to make sure that the various areas of technology were covered, and that's sort of an underrated set of diverse candidates to look for as well. And so I would certainly go about looking diligently for a wide mix of candidates.
Yeah, thank each of you for your answers. And yes, to be clear, in addition to gender, ethnic, racial diversity, et cetera, this committee's been clear and has worked successfully with the Biden administration to put forward nominees for the bench that have a diverse set of both professional as well as life experience, to have a judiciary that reflects the diverse country that it serves, but also, to your point, Judge Cruz, bolsters public confidence in the system and the decisions that it puts out. In my time remaining, I have a specific question for Ms. Sullivan. You've generally focused on patent and trademark issues in your practice, and you have significant experience spanning the public sector, the private sector, as well as academia. Given your experience across these different sectors, can you please describe how your prior roles will aid you as you prepare for this specific role on the bench?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Starting at the beginning of my career, when I was a law clerk, I was clerking on the federal circuit and reviewing all of the various issues that the Court of Federal Claims were involved in, reviewing cases on all the various issues that come before the Court of Federal Claims. In my practice, I have focused on intellectual property cases, which are one of the areas of the court's jurisdiction. But on top of that, my experience has spanned cross-cutting issues that the Court of Federal Claims addresses, things like administrative law, statutory interpretation, constitutional questions. Those sorts of things come up across the board in all different areas of the court's jurisdiction. And one quick thing I would add is my experience practicing in front of the federal circuit and understanding the records of highly technical, complex cases, I think will serve me well on the court if I were fortunate enough to be confirmed.
Thank you very much. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, Counselor, congratulations. I want to be sure I understand your records. We'll start with Judge Cruz. Judge Cruz, you handled a case called ViaNet Operating Group v. Maurice. Is that right?
That's correct, Senator.
And you were reversed in that case. Is that right?
Yes, Senator.
You handled a case called Moodin v. University of Colorado. Is that right?
I believe so, Senator, yes.
And you were reversed in that case, right?
I believe a portion of my recommendation was reversed, yes.
Okay. Did you handle a case called Vreeland v. Vigil?
Yes, Senator.
And you were reversed in that case too?
A portion of that was reversed as well, yes.
Okay. Did you handle a case called Vreeland v. Olson?
Yes, Senator.
And were you reversed in that case too?
A portion of that was reversed as well, yes.
Okay. You handled a case called Key Bank National Association v. Williams. Is that right?
Yes, Senator.
Were you reversed in that case?
Senator, I've issued over 1,500 recommendations and orders over the course of my 4 years on the bench, and that is one that was partially reversed, yes.
Okay. You handled a case called Renault v. Cardenas. Do you remember that case?
Yes, Senator.
And you were reversed in that case too?
A portion of that was reversed as well.
Do you remember a case called Janney v. Gomez?
Yes, Senator.
And were you reversed in that case?
A portion of that was reversed as well, Senator.
Okay. How about a case, do you remember this case, Judge Schwartz v. City of Denver?
The name is familiar, Senator. For all the cases I've handled, I'm not recalling particulars about that case.
Okay. Do you remember being reversed in that case?
Senator, I'm not specifically recalling that case.
Okay. Do you remember a case called Lucas v. Board of Commissioners of Larimer County?
The name is familiar, Senator. The details of the case are not coming to hand at the moment.
Do you remember being reversed in that case?
Senator, I don't recall offhand at the moment with that case.
Do you remember a case called Brooks v. Colorado Department of Corrections?
Yes, Senator.
Were you reversed in that case?
I'm not recalling offhand if that was one where I had a partial reversal.
Okay. Do you remember a case called ACV Jefferson County School District?
Yes, Senator.
Were you reversed in that case?
I was partially reversed in that case as well.
Okay. You remember a case called Blake v. United States?
The name sounds familiar, Senator.
Okay. Do you remember being reversed in that case?
I don't specifically recall that particular case.
Okay. Well, I've got others here, cases that you handled in which you were reversed. Tell me why you've been reversed so often, Judge.
Well, Senator, as I indicated, I've issued over 1,500 recommendations and orders over the course of my career. When I approach any of these cases, I approach them all in the same fashion, which is to analyze the law, analyze the Supreme Court and 10th Circuit precedent that bears on those cases, and I apply those cases to the law or to the facts of that case. As a magistrate judge, many of those are recommendations that are made which are reviewed de novo. I respect the decisions of those district judges who viewed those circumstances differently.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Tell me how you analyze a Brady motion.
How I analyze a Brady motion?
Yes, sir.
Senator, in my 4.5 years on the bench, don't believe I've had the occasion to address a Brady motion in my career.
Do you know what a Brady motion is?
Senator, in my time on the bench, I've not had occasion to address that, and so it's not coming to mind at the moment what a Brady motion is.
Do you recall the U.S. Supreme Court case, Brady v. Maryland?
I do recall the name of the case, Senator, yes.
And what did it hold?
I believe that the Brady case, Senator, I believe the Brady case involves something regarding the Second Amendment. It is not. I've not had occasion to address that. If that issue were to come before me, I would certainly analyze that Supreme Court precedent and apply it as I would need to the facts in front of me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. We'll give Senator Tillis a moment to settle in. He'll be recognized next for his questions. In the meantime, let me just recognize that Judge Cruz, appreciate your responses to Senator Kennedy's question. We do acknowledge that the record lists 18 cases in which you were reversed or critiqued by a reviewing court. Many of these, as your responses indicated, were partial reversals, and many others, they followed a new development in the applicable area of the law. So cases are at times dynamic. Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I was a little late. I was actually in the ante room with another member, but I wanted to come and say hello, congratulate you all for your nominations, and just ask a couple of questions. Ms. Silfen, I think maybe by me writing a letter of recommendation to the administration on you, you kind of know where I'm leaning on your confirmation. And thank you for the work that you did for Senator Leahy. I may ask you about workload and claims in the claims court if I get an opportunity to. Otherwise, we'll submit something for the record. I should also say that Ms. Brailsford, did I pronounce that right? Because you've been vetted and supported by two colleagues in Idaho that I have a lot of support for, that I intend to vote for your nomination as well. I would ask you the questions that they clearly already have in order to support your nomination. So, Mr. Cruz, I want to ask you, I may only have one question for you, and it has to do with a case that you ruled on qualified immunity, I think for prison guards, related to a prisoner who was denied a couple of meals after a complaint about the food, which is a legitimate complaint that someone incarcerated can make. I understand it was then reversed by a district court and then held up by the 10th Circuit. Am I right about those fact patterns? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I recall a case where that was the fact pattern, Senator.
Well, I for one think that we have a lot of people calling for repealing qualified immunity, generally for law enforcement, and the circumstances of the case are what they are, and seem to be a rational basis for that specific example of why they were not covered under qualified immunity. Before you started serving in a judicial role, did you ever publish, make statements, opine on qualified immunity, for or against it?
No, Senator, I don't believe I made any statements for or against that.
Could you, if you're somebody like me who thinks that people in law enforcement roles need to be held accountable, we've seen some tragic incidences where they are being prosecuted, most recently the prison or the sheriff's deputies, with the case in Virginia just more recently. But could you at least characterize the process that the judicial process that you were a participant in is an example of how you can have qualified immunity in place for people in public safety and still rely on the courts to identify the bad actors and hold them accountable?
Sorry, Senator, can you reframe that question?
Okay, well, we have a lot of people who are weaving the narrative that, and I have to go back to my least favorite webpage, that is a subpage of Act Blue, which is the aggregation engine for good Democrats to get fundraising. There's a subpage there that's called ACAB. It's the 13.12-mile run. And they describe, it's a Black Lives Matter sponsored page for fundraising. They describe 1312 translates into ACAB, which translates into all cops are bastards. So there are some people who think that all law enforcement officers are bastards. And therefore, you have to assume that they're bad actors, and none of them should have any kind of coverage for qualified immunity. And I'm stipulating that there is some small percentage of law enforcement, with the tens of thousands that we have across the country, who make bad judgments. They're either bad people or they made bad judgments in a very stressful situation. But I don't jump to the notion that even a significant minority are in that category. But we have people here that think the way you do this is threaten all people in public safety without having qualified immunity in a job that's very, very difficult and very, very dangerous. So when I was reading your briefer, I actually saw this as an example of where qualified immunity among people in public safety can still be balanced and still be in place and allow the judicial process to weed through ones that step beyond any sort of standard that should allow them to be excused for their actions. And so I don't even have a question for you. I wanted to talk about qualified immunity, and I want to talk about your case in particular, where you ruled then it was reversed, and then vetted by the 10th Circuit, proves to me that you don't have to strip qualified immunity to allow law enforcement to continue to do the great work that the vast majority of them do every day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tillis. Seeing no other senators joining Judiciary Committee today, I want to make sure the nominees know this is not a reflection of you or the importance of these nominations. As I mentioned earlier, there's multiple committees meeting concurrently today, so other members of the committee, no doubt, will be able to submit questions for the record. The deadline for those being by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, March 29th. So I will begin to move to adjourn today's hearing, in addition to reminding everybody of that deadline for the questions for the record. I will also announce that that is also the deadline to submit letters for the record and similar materials. And if there's no further questions or items pending before a committee today, this hearing is adjourned.